Dr. Swati has made my job really easy because some of the techniques have already been discussed. So hopefully it's not a repetition, it's only an extension of her talk. So as Dr. Swati said, the commonly used tests are Schirmer's phenol red thread, obviously fluorescein and Lissaman green. But when it comes about treating the patient, when we don't see anything wrong in these tests, we are rather than ophthalmologists, we are just a counselor sometimes, or rather most of the times. We just need to tell the patient, yes, dry eye, it's an ongoing thing, it's not quick fix. So are these diagnostic tools, are they good enough? Because not all the time these clinical signs and patient symptoms, they correlate. And most of the times when we prescribe, it's generally without a proper diagnosis. And we cannot follow one-size-fits-all policy in these cases. There are several techniques. Some of them have been discussed by Dr. Swati. And I'll have to repeat quickly some of them. But are those good enough, or are they helpful enough? As she said earlier, so the Tear Lab is now one of the most commonly used, well, not most commonly used, but it's a recent one, but it's quite a good one, I'd say. It's a lab on a chip, literally, and it takes a couple of minutes, not more than a couple of minutes, to give you an osmolarity measurement. Again, RPSN from a dry detector. It will tell you it's more like a screening tool. It will tell you whether there are elevated levels of MMPP or not. It has generally good sensitivity and specificity. The only thing is it won't tell you the cause of ocular surface inflammation. So there are a few drawbacks there. Interferometry of tear film, well, that's been around for a couple of decades, but it's still not been used widely. It's just an add-on tool which attaches to slit lamp, and it's dynamic evaluation. I had a video, but unfortunately I cannot play it because of its size. It gives you roughly an estimation of size or thickness of lipid layer. And also you can tell NIBUT using a grid with that. So it's a good technique. It will tell you whether it will be easy to tell what type of dry eye it is as well, and you can treat that. Now, recently, Dr. Ko et al. We went to a conference, TFOS, Tear Film Society in Florence, and they have got a new technique, similar principle, but the exciting thing in this, it's actually you can see on a screen that the size of this, and you can store all these images for future reference. So it would be not only it's good in research, but for the patients also, you can actually show them what's been happening. Thermography, well, it's one of my favorite one. It's used widely, not only in dry eye or other medical things like screening of breast cancer, if you may know that. And also it started at armies and Air Force, I think they used to use it. And in airports you see that very regularly nowadays. So what it does is, if you look here, so it's just a snapshot. It gives you a temperature profile, and I don't know if you can appreciate that it's just by HVID and VVID you can tell these in the limbus. So obviously the limbus would be more warmer than the center of the cornea, and so all these temperature are deducted from the central cornea, and you get a factor. It's called as TVF, or temperature variation factor. So variable this TVF is, severe dry eye it is. So again, it gives you a graph. So from limbus goes to the center of cornea, it's cooler, and again it goes up. And again, it's like taking a photograph of someone. It's pretty quick. Trans-elimination of MG, it's little invasive. Some patients don't like it, especially if it's on the upper lid. But when it's used in conjunction with a novel infrared imaging device, it gives a very interesting photos, and again, it's extremely useful in research. As you can see in this one, You can see the glands here, but in MGD, it's totally disappeared. And in this one also, you can see it's, of course, not infrared, and there's a huge gap there. So again, it can be used just a transmitter for a clinical setting. Now, Topcon have come up with infrared filter. So this is extremely beautiful images it gives. So as you can see in a normal eye, you can see clearly these MGD mammary gland lines, and whereas in MGDs, there's nothing there. So again, it can be used in a clinical setting. Although I don't know the price of it though. I'll just go through quickly with few of the treatment options. Some of you might know this Blephastine or latent heat goggles. It's commercially available in UK as far as I know. I'm not sure if it's available in Asia or in States, but it's a very useful device. It's just like heat goggles. So they give warm air and you just wear them, and it can run on battery. So patient can go about doing their own work. And it works mainly on mild to moderate dry eye patients. It's unfortunately, if there are no glands left, it won't work as much because it's not squeezing your glands. Generally, how we tell the patient to do warm compresses is just essentially heating up, making the temperature, it's just above melting point, and so thereby increasing the tear film stability. MGD RSI bag, so essentially it's quite popular, and I think in few countries. It's essentially in some flax seeds. It's nice because it just keeps you at a constant temperature and constant pressure for a longer time rather than just a standard warm compress, and also it warms up mebum and facilitates its release. So there are a lot of drops and sprays have come up. So I'm not sure if it's available in Asia. I know it's available in New Zealand and in US and UK, in some states at least. So you spray this over the closed eye, and it has soy-lecithin, essentially, flip it. So you can just in closed eye, and it mixes up with your own lipids. So it works even in some severe cases. So and also recently Systane Balance have come up, and it's not widely available yet, but I'm not sure how good it is. But if you have, just it seems to be quite good. It has got good things there. So LipiFlow again, I haven't used it myself, but it looks scary just when you look at it. Put that in your patient's eye, but it tends to work. I know some of our Australian counterparts have been using that, and then of course in States. So it's a thermodynamic device, and it applies pressure on eyelid surfaces, and it applies on both sides. Inside, I'll show you an image with that. So as you can see in this one, from inside and the outside as well, it applies pressure. So again, I haven't used it myself, so I'm not sure how good it is. So how these techniques can help you, which I discussed earlier, in giving you, in prescribing what for your dry eye patients. Well, it's keep changing, and hopefully it's not going to be one size fits all policy. Hopefully we don't get just lubricating drops and just go further than that, and it changes the way we see and treat dry eye. Thank you.